Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, wherever and whenever you are joining us. Welcome to our latest edition of What Caught My Eye, or WCME Sports. As always, I'm your host, the coach Nick Vesci, joined by the boy Stephen Vesci.
What up?
And tonight, again, incapacitated by some internet maintenance issues in his area of the country, the man Stephen Comlin will not be joining us tonight, so we apologize for any inconvenience that may have caused us while doing this. Now, if you're new to our show, we like to think of ourselves as the sports show for sports fans about sports. We like to focus on what happens in between the lines of competition rather than the fodder that is tabloid and TMZ like that unfortunately dominates much of our headlines nowadays in the sports sphere. Before we get into our top catch for the show, just a reminder to follow us on all of our socials. That's on X, Instagram, Facebook at WCME_sports. We're also on TikTok, Snapchat, and Threads. All of our episodes will drop every Wednesday at noon on Spotify, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. So please comment, like, subscribe on all of our platforms when you get a chance. And give us if you wanted to listen to us on all of them, you can, but pick one, listen to us.
Soon to Twitch as well.
Oh, yes, soon to Twitch.
I got to figure that out. I haven't tried it yet, but I got to figure it out.
How hard could it be? A bunch of children do it all the time.
I know. That's what I was thinking. This can't be that difficult. I'm set up. I should be set up to the point where all I have to do is hit the button and it should record the screen, but I actually don't know how it works because I haven't tried it yet. So I'll probably try to play College Football 25 and then download MLB The Show because it's baseball season coming up, so get some of that going.
And the handle again for that, just like all of our other socials, is what, boy?
WCME_sports.
Thank you. And now our top catch for the show today is the NCAA tournaments, plural, the men's and women's tournaments. Over the weekend, we got down to the final four teams for each side, men's and women's. We had the Sweet 16 games and the Elite 8 games. Great matchups. This is, crunch time of the tournament. You normally have your chaos week, which is the week before. And then this is the week where you see like the best basketball being played with the highest stakes going on. So we're going to start on the men's side. In the Sweet 16, Duke rolled over Arizona pretty handily. Cooper Flagg at 30 points looked as elite as you could possibly look in that game. That set up a matchup with Alabama in that region. Is that the South region, boy?
That's the East.
The East region, excuse me. And after Alabama dropped 113 on BYU, I believe is what they scored. Florida took out Maryland, who were looking to be kind of like the darlings of the tournament after their Queen's buzzer beater and the Crab 5 and all that. And that set up a matchup with Texas Tech, and that was one of the games of the tournament. Texas Tech overcame a 16-point deficit midway through the second half to force overtime and then prevailed in the extra session over Arkansas thanks to Darian Williams' layup with 7 seconds left. That was, as compelling a game as you're going to get, that Texas Tech Arkansas game. Michigan State outlasted Ole Miss 73-70. Pesky Ole Miss team coached by Chris Beard. You would expect nothing less. And that set up a matchup with Auburn who took care of business against Michigan. Tennessee, who I believe had lost twice to Kentucky earlier this year, they exacted some revenge on them, beat the Wildcats 78-65 to make back-to-back Elite Eights, which is good for them. That set up the matchup with Houston, who ran, I called it impeccable. It was an amazing inbounds play that Houston ran with essentially a give and go under their own hoop to score the winning bucket with less than a second left to beat Purdue.
Incredible scouting report.
I mean, it's brilliant is what it was. It was so good. And I actually was thinking about something like that because I was watching a play where they take the same situation, right? It was later in the game, team underneath their own hoop, and it was a team that needed a three. And so the guy guarding the inbounder completely turned his back to him and wasn't even like near him, or at least, to the side, but wasn't up in the face of the inbounder because they're making sure they guard the three. And I was like, I wonder if that would set up an opening to do like this type of play, but it wasn't the right scenario for it. But this was the perfect scenario. And Purdue had a similar type defense that they were running there where that guy wasn't up on the.
Yeah. He took the help to go. He figured they're going to dive hard. Like they're going to set these screens, dive hard to the basket. Because that Braden Smith, who was guarding him, he's an incredibly smart player, took the help, went and tried to cover the dive to the basket, left his man. I mean, what a inbounds play.
Brilliant. I mean, it's Kelvin Sampson's brilliance. We've been singing his praises for a while now here on the show, and that exemplified it more than maybe any other play that Houston's had in his tenure. It was remarkable. And so Houston obviously is going to play Tennessee for that last Final Four spot there. So in the Elite Eight, you had Florida versus Texas Tech. Florida ended the game on an 18-4 run to beat the Red Raiders and advanced to the Final Four for the first time since 2014 as they defeated them 84-79. That game, Texas Tech legitimately outplayed Florida for almost the entire game, and yet
it was the
Florida
two front ends.
Florida won. Remarkable.
The front ends of the 1-1 to miss both of those, and the first one you had your second best player and your best scorer. I believe it was Darian Williams. To have him as an 85% free throw shooter, miss that as you're up. I believe they're up 4 at that point.
I don't know what it was. I mean, it was crazy. Like yes, those misses were huge, but it didn't even tell the whole story because the number of shots that Florida had to make, and it was like fairly improbable shots at that. Walter Clayton, they talk about him being Mariano Rivera-esque of the games at the end, give him the ball and he'll do something. He did. It was almost like watching a train wreck. Yeah. Right, and not like in the way that Texas Tech did things that were bad. Yes, missing the front ends were bad, but it was like something where you couldn't look away because you're like, am I gonna see what I'm about to see? Is this really happening?
Those 3 threes in a row,
nuts,
just like that.
Yeah, remarkable. So Florida, Todd Golden, I believe, is the coach of Florida.
Yes,
came over from San Francisco, University of San Francisco, the Dons. Yes, and they. Been one of the best teams in the country, obviously. That they're Final Four bound. And the Duke-Alabama game, their defense stifled Alabama, which is amazing. Like, I don't know what the score was. 65 points, that's it. The team who the game before almost doubled that.
Yeah, half of it. Yep. That's incredible. But I was thinking about Alabama this whole time because they remind me so much of Ole Miss football. It is as fast as you can play. They have the best offense in the nation. No one can execute it the way they do, and no one can outgun them. Right? BYU, as we saw, BYU tried to, and they thought they can run it up. And BYU's had a great season. They've been phenomenal. They have a great team, but they cannot try to run it up with Alabama. I mean, Bama beat them to the tune of 113-88, right? So you can't try to run with this team. So then, same thing with Ole Miss football, right? No one executes that hurry up the way they do, and they always have one of the best offenses in the nation. But at the end of the day, it's not a national championship winning formula. It's incredible. They can get to Final Four. They can get to Elite Eight. Ole Miss could get to the college football playoff. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's a national championship winning formula because you have, like, as you saw, Duke slow the game down, use their length, made Alabama run sets in the half court, and Duke could get anything they wanted to on offense. The amount of slip screens, backdoors that they got, and just easy dunks or layups, and Bama had to work for everything. And it's just, to me, the way Bama plays and the way Ole Miss football plays is not national championship winning.
So the reason I think I'm with you on that is not because of, defense wins championships, right? Oh, you have to have defense, right? It's more of the fact that they're one-dimensional in the way that they can win, right? Mm-hmm. Yes, you have all different scorers. You have great players. Mark Sears, we've talked about him so much. The active leading scorer in college basketball right now. But like you said, if something comes up that could force, you have no plan B, I guess is what I'm saying. Ole Miss has no plan B. They get the X gets stopped, they're done. We can't win with our defense. We can win with our special teams. We don't have any gimmicky, yes, they have gimmicky plays, but it's all built in the same thing. We're stuck doing the same thing. Like, we're not multiple in our ways that we can win and take care of business. I think that is why it comes up as hard to, yes, you could win all these games regular season. You can win enough in the tournament. Like I said, Ole Miss could definitely make a college football playoff and win a game. No one would be shocked at that, but you're right. I'd be shocked if Ole Miss is sitting there in the Final Four of the college football playoff, right?
Yeah, I don't think they'll be holding. I don't think they will be holding a trophy at the end of the day.
But you're gonna win enough because you're that good at that skill. And that skill, scoring over and over again, wins. Right, the object of the game is to score more than the other team, right? But like I said, there's no plan B there, right? Playing Duke, they had no plan B. What else? What can we do? We have nothing else we can do. And the second they fell behind enough, and the second Duke, showed their prowess, because I mean, one of their biggest things is that they're big, like huge,
Yes,
and all skillful, all over the court. Almost every guy out there is an NBA player for them, or is going to get drafted at some point in their career. So you have all those things, and when you have that length, you can do different things with that, right? Alabama, yeah, it's not like it's a small team, but they don't have that elite level of what Duke has in terms of the length and the measurables. And I think that is what I use the word stifle. Corralled them, bottled them in, and that made them have to adjust, and they hadn't had to adjust all year.
no,
And so it's like,
yeah,
what do
and
I do? And that's why it's not a win. It's a winning formula. It's not a championship winning formula, because you have to be able to win in multiple ways. I mean, we've talked so much about UVA's run when they won 19. Think about the Oregon game that they won that year was like 54-50, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then they national championship game was like 85-77.
Yeah.
And they had everything in between, right?
I think they were the most efficient offense. Efficiency is the key to these things. But yeah, Alabama, again, you can't, like BYU tried to run with them, because that's what BYU does. And they looked like it was a game, right, for a while, and then it was just Bam was too good at it. Right?
Yeah.
You can't try to beat Bama at their game. So Duke's, you slow it down, right? Duke's capable of scoring 100. They literally did the game before against Arizona. And a lot of people were thinking, oh my gosh, if they scored 100 against Arizona, this game's going to be well into the 100s each. Like, it's going to be an absolute shootout. I'm like, no, Duke's not going to try to run with Bama. They're going to make them run the sets. They're going to play a half-court game, and Duke's going to score every time down the court, but they're going to hold Bama. And I think Alabama shot 52 threes against BYU.
And they make like an absurd percentage of those.
It was half of them.
Yeah.
I believe they made 25. It was the best team shooting performance I think I've ever seen. It was absolutely incredible. But I think they shot 12 twos. Against Duke, they probably had more twos shot in the first half.
And I think that's what
10 minutes.
That length on the length on the perimeter forces you to second guess that
and
shot
hedging,
and
hedging or switching screens. BYU, all they did was go under. And if you heard Nate Oates talking with the sideline reporter after the game with Mark Sears, and he was like, yeah, I kept telling Sears that they're going to go under every screen. Like, this is your shot. Like, it's a one dribble in rhythm three. And BYU, for some reason, didn't switch or didn't hedge, because that's not the way they run their defense. And it was like Alabama was salivating going into that game. They're like, and they did exactly what they thought they were going to do. And then Duke's like, yeah, you're not doing that.
Well, Dennis Green, there they are, who we thought they were. Yeah. Let them off the hook. Duke, Dennis Green.
I don't know if you've thought about this at all, but Duke reminds me of UConn last year.
A little bit. I can see that.
They seem like the buzzsaw this year, and they can run everything you run at them, they'll have an answer for.
Yeah, that's the I think the key right there. UConn could do everything you wanted last year. Duke can do anything. You want to win low scoring, you want to win high scoring, fast. You want to mix it up. You want to throw a zone at us. You want to press us. We'll figure out a way to do it, because we have the pieces in the basketball IQ. So yeah, you're right. They do seem like that. Duke, their Final Four opponent is going to be Houston, after Houston dismantled Tennessee 69-50. It's the 7th Final Four in Houston Cougars program history, but only the 2nd since back-to-back Final Fours in 83 and 84. The other one that they reached was in 2021 under Kelvin Sampson as well.
That was a bad matchup for Tennessee.
I think they were, again, we talked about the revenge that they, the demons they exercised beating Kentucky. It's hard to turn around that quick and then play Houston after you kind of had that euphoria and that almost monkey off your back there as well. The last one was Auburn over Michigan State. Auburn held off a late Michigan State charge to advance to the Final Four 70-64. It's their second ever Final Four. The other one was 19 when they lost to the aforementioned UVA. Janai Broom became the first player since Hakeem Olajuwon in that 1984 Houston Cougars run to go for 25 points, 10 rebounds, and shoot 75% or better from the field in an Elite Eight game or further in the tournament, if that makes sense. Yeah. So, like when the stakes are the highest, Elite Eight and further, the only other player to do that was Hakeem, which is pretty amazing. Crazy. Yeah. So, matchups Final Four, if you weren't paying attention, we have Auburn versus Florida, an intra-SEC matchup. So that means the SEC will have a team in the championship game. And we have Duke versus Houston. And if you're looking there, it's all four of the number one seeds. And if you're asking yourself, when was the last time all four number one seeds got there? Well, the last time was in 2008. Is that the Kansas, Mario Chalmers, Memphis, yes, Derrick Rose year?
I believe so. Yeah, because it wasn't Florida back-to-back, was it?
No, that was 06 and 07.
That was 06, 07. Then it was Kansas, because Kansas actually beat Steph Curry and Davidson to get to the Final Four.
In that year, 08?
Yes. They won by 2. I
thought that was 09. But, yeah. That's the only other time it's happened since 1979. I think 79 is when they expanded the tournament or something like that. Yeah, that was the key.
Everybody has talked about that, though. Like, people are upset. Like, oh, we got all 4 1s. These were clearly the best teams all year.
Well, yeah, I mean, the tournament did what it's technically supposed to do, right? It's set up for this to be the case.
This is not going to happen every year, even with the NIL and transfer portal. I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb that this won't happen each year.
Well, I mean, we just said it's only happened one other time, so we could argue that what we're seeing here is more rare than the upsets that we are used to seeing, right? So in one way, we're watching more history than if we were to watch like a 12 seed go on a run. We've seen that before. Some kids, there are kids out there who have never seen this before, right? Yeah. So we get to see the clear 4 best teams play.
Like we said it a couple weeks ago, you can make an argument that every one of these 1 seeds is the best team in the country. I don't think that's been the case at I don't know, maybe since 2008. Like I literally can look at this and go, Duke feels like a buzzsaw. They feel like UConn last year, incredible. Houston, what an unbelievable year. They just dominated Tennessee. They're one of the most dominant teams. Florida's been ridiculous. Auburn has the most wins ever against tournament teams, I think, in a season, right? Their schedule was stupid. Yeah, it's absolutely insane what these teams have been.
Which team had the hardest road? My
Houston playing Gonzaga.
Houston,
and Florida, UConn.
I mean, I was thinking Houston had to beat Gonzaga, Purdue, Tennessee. It to me is a little bit more than the Creighton, Michigan State.
I agree. I think
Baylor, Arizona, Florida,
Alabama, Houston, Purdue. You had to beat Purdue.
Yeah,
that's
who's a yeah. No,
I'd say Houston or Florida. If you'd said the other one, I wouldn't say you're wrong.
I mean, especially when you think about the coaches that Kelvin Sampson had to beat there, right? You're talking Mark Few, Matt Painter, and Rick Barnes.
Yep.
I mean, that's right. No disrespect. Is it Grant McCaslin?
McCaslin.
McCaslin. He's fantastic over there. Willard at Maryland he's not even there anymore.
He's at Villanova.
And even Michigan, right? You have that old Dusty May as the coach and McDermott, but it's right. And Nate Oates, Duke beat Nate Oates, and right Dana. I don't know, they didn't have to. Right, Tommy Lloyd at Arizona. It's still the gauntlet was the coaching gauntlet too. Was Houston's gauntlet going through those 3 legitimate Hall of Fame coaches.
Yeah, I think those 2 teams, Florida and Houston, had the hardest second round games.
Oh, absolutely.
Duke got Baylor, but Baylor we knew it was a down year. That is a national championship winning coach, but we knew that was a down year. Creighton loved the team, loved the offensive firepower, but Auburn too good. UConn and Gonzaga, those are brutal matchups.
Yeah. So again,
if you look at the games, Florida won by 2 and Houston won by 4.
Yeah, I mean, again, the argument of it's boring or whatever. We don't like having all the 1 seeds here, but these 1 seeds earned. It wasn't like it could have happened where there were upsets either other places, and the 1 seeds didn't play the best teams, right? Because this 12 seed went on a run or this or that, but that was not the case. And that, like I said, that Houston, that's a buzzsaw Houston had to go through, right? That's incredibly impressive that the Cougars are able to make it to where they are going through that schedule. Now, who you got, boy, with this? Is your national champion still alive?
Houston, yeah. I've had Houston from the start, so I'm
Houston.
still going there. I'm a little worried about that. Who do you have?
Midway through the year, my pick was Houston over Florida. And okay. I saw that was alive and possible when the bracket came out, and I'm going to stick with that.
By the way, did you know, so they came out with, like, Ken Palm has been around since, I think, 98, and they rank, like, the best teams in terms of pretty much efficiency. Like, they have the whole formula with Ken Palm. And Duke is the number 2. This Duke team is the number 2 Ken Palm team ever.
I can see that.
All 4 of these teams are in the top 10 of Ken Palm ever. Houston was 6.
Wow.
Yeah. I think Florida was 10.
You said Duke was number 2? Who was the number 1 team ever?
It was another Duke from the, I think, 90s, 98 or something.
It was Shane Battier.
Yeah.
Mike Dunleavy, like Jay Williams around that time.
Probably. Yeah. It was Duke. I think Duke had like the top 3 or something. But it was kind of wild to see all 4 of these teams are in the top 10 Ken Palm, like best teams ever.
That's pretty amazing. All right, so it should set up some compelling matchups. We would think.
This is the high quality basketball. I'm excited for this.
Yeah, no, I am too. It's going to be great. It should be great basketball. They're intriguing matchups, right? You got Auburn, Florida, the intra-SEC matchup they played already this year. Duke and Houston, where you have, right, we talk about Duke's ability to score and play in different ways, but Houston is similar in regard that they have everyone on the court can score, can get a bucket when they need to. They positionless players all over the court for them, right? They're able to do a whole lot of different things on offense, and they play fantastic defense always. Kelvin Sampson always has great defensive teams. So you have that going for you. So, yeah, should be compelling, should be fun to watch this weekend if you're looking for something good. Now moving on to the women's bracket. Women's Sweet 16, you had LSU advancing to their 3rd straight Elite 8 with an 80-73 win over NC State. And that set up a matchup with number 1 overall seed UCLA, or UCLA, University of California, Los Angeles, if you didn't know. After they took down Ole Miss, ending the Rebels' run. Duke advanced to their first Elite 8 since 2013 in the lowest scoring tournament game ever in the Sweet 16 or later after they beat UNC 47-38. 47-38 was the final score. I don't even know if a Tony Bennett UVA team ever went like that. Like
in a tournament?
Not in any game. I think they did. I think I was at a Wisconsin game. It was UVA Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And it was close to that, but I still think they both broke 40. You might have to look that one up, probably like 2012, 2013 UVA Wisconsin. It was and it had I think it had like all the big boys in that game. I think they had Joe Harris and Brogdon in there. I think it might have been a Kaminsky Sam Decker team as well. Like I think there were pros all over the court, and it was neither team broke 50. But 47-38, I was like, that is wow, that's incredible. Duke earned the right to take on defending champion South Carolina, who had a close game against Maryland.
They have not looked great.
They find ways to win, is what they do. That's what Dawn Staley from
UVA.
That's what she does. TCU kept their Cinderella story going. They advanced to their first ever Elite 8 behind Haley Van Lith's 26 points over Notre Dame, 71-62, and that earned them an in-state rivalry game with number one seed Texas after they defeated Tennessee in another intra-SEC matchup. And then Paige Becker scored a career-high 40 points as UConn routed Oklahoma. And then USC, playing without Juju Watkins for their first time after she tore her ACL, beat Kansas State 67-61 to set up that matchup with UConn, which, again, that was the matchup we were all looking forward to this whole tournament. To have Juju not there was really just a a Buzz Killington of a thing. But in the Elite Eight, South Carolina outscored Duke 16-8 in the final quarter. I believe is the least points Duke scored in I think a quarter all year, to go to their fifth straight Final Four. UCLA held off LSU 72-65 to advance to the program's first ever Final Four. Good for UCLA. If you're not new to women's basketball, you see, UCLA, right? The men's power. They have so many national championships. Wooden, Kareem or Lou Alcindor, Bill Walton, Kevin, even contemporary Kevin Love, Russell Westbrook, all that stuff. But women's side, they have not been successful. They've had a rough go of it. And so this is a pretty amazing job that UCLA has done there. Was it Corey Close? Corey Chase? I forget her. Corey Close, I think is her name. The head coach at UCLA. Was I right?
UCLA women's basketball coach. Why won't you give me Corey? Yeah, Corey Close.
There we go. Yeah.
Unless it's Classe.
That could be. Keeping it classy. But yeah, what a job she's done over there with the Lady Bruins. Another Elite Eight matchup, the aforementioned Paige Beckers. She had 31 points as UConn took down USC to advance to their second consecutive Final Four and their record 24th overall as a program. And they're going to take on UCLA. And then Texas defeated TCU 58-47 to advance to their first Final Four since 2003. And it'll set up a rematch of South Carolina with South Carolina. I believe the team split this year. I know Texas beat them in Austin earlier this year. So kind of interesting there, right? You've got similar to what we saw at the Auburn-Florida matchup with South Carolina-Texas, an intra-SEC matchup with teams that played each other this year and had, again...
Yeah, so the SEC is guaranteed to get someone into the national championship with the men's and women's.
Yes. Because, it does matter more to the SEC.
Look at that UConn opening spread. UConn, the 2 seeds, favored by 8.5 over the 1.
Yeah.
That's the number 1 overall seed, too.
Yes, it is interesting.
Right?
I wonder if coaching has something to do with it, right? Gino Auriemma's, arguably the most decorated coach, men's or women's, ever
looked in this tournament.
Yeah, if you look at BPI, there's a lot of metrics that rate UConn as they should have been like the number 1 overall seed. Their BPI is number 1 in the country over, again, everyone else, right? If you're number 1, so I think that plays into it. I think how they're playing plays into it as well. It's probably something matchup wise there, but I do think a little bit has to do with the Geno factor, right?
Yeah,
been there, done that. This is uncharted territory as we referenced for the Bruins. So that's a pretty sizable spread. The one over there, I believe, is -4.5 for South Carolina on the other side.
Correct.
And I guess that makes sense because you're playing a team at least for the second, third time this year in Texas. So you have familiarity there. Texas beat them already.
That's good. That one's going to be a low scoring game. I'd have to think based on what we've seen with South Carolina in the 50s against Duke, Texas in the 50s against TCU.
Yeah. No, I mean,
think that's a defensive battle.
Yeah, and of course we say that, and then someone's going to come in and light up.
75-72 or something.
Yeah, but what South Carolina does is they're so deep. Like, they don't have like every year they have like 6 people who average like 9.5 points a game. So they always are going to score. It's always a different person every night, which I love because that's what it means to be part of a team. In Texas, kind of similar, but they I forget the one person that they rely on to get them a bucket, but they are, a team to be reckoned with. I think Vic Schaefer's their coach. He's done a good job down there in Austin. That win over South Carolina this year in the regular season was like huge for their program. But it's like, could they really do it again at this stage?
Yeah, I mean,
when Dawn Staley, is going to outcoach everyone besides maybe like Auriemma. Even on the men's side, she's going to outcoach everyone besides Auriemma, right?
Yeah.
So that should be an interesting matchup as well. Who you got?
I picked South Carolina at the start of this, so I'm sticking Dawn Staley. I'm not, even though the way I'm looking at this, I think UConn's going to win, but I'm sticking with South Carolina. I'm not going against Dawn Staley. Prove me wrong. She's won 2 out of the last 3.
Yeah, I think
So I'm sticking with
I
her.
think something like that. Yeah, I'm going to stick with mine. Before the tournament, I had UConn over South Carolina, so that's still alive as well. I'm going to keep that and go from there. Paige Beckers has looked unstoppable, but
Yes.
so
But
did Caitlin
that's why I
Clark,
have
and Dawn
that.
Staley found a way to neutralize her. So,
That's why you have, that's why you run 8 deep, right?
Yeah.
For South Carolina or whatever it is. That's why you do it. So yeah, I agree with you. That would be fun. Like rooting this. Like I want to see UConn South Carolina.
Yeah, me too. Right, two of the greatest coaches ever to coach basketball against each other.
Star power.
The star power there, right? You have all the storylines. You have the repeat going for them. UConn, I think they haven't won a title since 2016. Right, it's almost if they don't claim this will be a decade next year. They haven't won a title. That's unheard of, right? So yeah, there'd be so many storylines. That would be what you want to see is UConn, South Carolina. But hey, and like you see here, you see 3 number 1s and a number 2 who we said could have easily been a number 1. So you have the heavy hitters playing against each other here. So should be good basketball. I like it. Anything else college basketball before we move on?
No. There's too much coaching carousel. You see Buzz is Maryland's coach now.
I saw that. Interesting.
There's a lot of stuff going on. Too much stuff to get into. I'm not doing it.
Too much or not enough?
That's too much. There's too many, like the amount of players in the transfer portal. Like you literally can't keep track of a team. That's the thing that like bothers me now is that it's hard to keep track of a team. But I will say the teams that are in the Final Four, besides Duke, because they get lottery picks, so a lot of their teams gonna rotate in and out. That's just the way that happens. But Houston, Florida, Auburn, I don't think it's comprised of a lot of transfers there. The couple pieces for each team coming in. But I heard Todd Golden talk about he was like, yeah, I want guys that want to wear the Florida on their chest.
So I think
I want guys at universities that want to be at the university.
Yes, obviously. You're right. You don't want to hire someone for a job who doesn't want to be there, right? You want someone who wants to be there. But there's a lot of Houston less so, I think, than any other. The way like Kelvin Sampson runs his program and who he gets.
That's for a special.
Yes,
player.
he looks for a specific his guy, right? And it's a lot of times unheralded guys. And you get an LJ Cryer, isn't he a transfer from Baylor, right? You ever so often
there for
second or third year, yeah. So every so often you get guys come in like that, but his program isn't built up that. It's like if he has the opportunity, he's going to jump in an LJ Cryer. Whereas Auburn, it's like almost all transfers over there. They're kind of rotating, and that's kind of what SEC basketball in a lot of ways has been. And in Florida, you see a lot of transfers because I think this is only Golden's second year there.
Yes.
Right? And so that's kind of at this stage in the game, that's what you have to do now. Once you take over a program, I mean, look at UVA with Ryan Odom just coming in. The entire UVA roster transferred out. So he literally has to build a roster completely from scratch. And I'm sure that's what happened with Todd Golden when he got to Florida. He had to build it from scratch. And so Walter Clayton coming from Iona.
Indiana's is gone. West Virginia's is gone.
Elijah Martin coming over from FAU. So that's how he had to do it. But him making those statements that's not disingenuous. That is probably real. But to start your program, to get it to that point, you have to fill it with all these transfers, and then you can build it from there. Because you have to build that winning culture, and that's I think why you see it there. But
at this point, when the season ends for these teams, it's almost like why not put your name in the transfer portal, right? Let's see how much money you can get. You can always come back to your same team. That's kind of what it feels like. That I don't know how many of these kids are going to come back to their same team, but that's kind of the way it feels. Like I was actually shocked with Isaac McNeely. Like, I thought he was a UVA kid.
I think it just goes back to different coaching, different coaching staff. You see, I think I saw a rumor of WVU being where he's going to end up.
He's from West Virginia.
Yes, he is from Polka.
Yes.
Do you know what their mascot was in Polka High School?
No. What is
They're
it?
the dots, the polka dots.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
That's not even the correct way of spelling polka dot.
No, it's not.
P-O-L-K.
He's from POCA, West Virginia. They are the polka dots. Look it up.
Oh my gosh.
There's your.
Fairmont's the polar bears. I didn't know that.
Which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, I know. That's always a sweet one.
All right, moving on. Last weekend, we had the opening of Major League Baseball. Opening day should be a holiday. Gosh, this MLB just
dropping the ball.
Drops it. Swing and missing is what I would say.
Let's put it on the same day the Elite Eight is.
And we'll put it during times where people are all at work. We'll start everything on a Thursday, and then we'll give half the teams a day off the next day. It just baseball does some. It's like their playoffs too. For as great as baseball the game is, right? And the older you get, the more you realize a lot of the lessons in baseball transfer to real life more than a lot of other sports in terms of like how to deal with adversity, how to deal with things not going your way, how to deal with failure, right? And rejection and all those things and how to be the patience and the work ethic and the way you could do something right 100 times. Like literally you do nothing wrong, but you won't succeed, right? Those lessons are so good. And to have a sport in our country that's supposed to be a national pastime and then they do shit like this, right? It hurts the sport. The regional broadcasting stuff, not as much stuff nationally. There should be
that is the dumbest thing.
There should be. I should be able to turn on the TV and see
watch the O's or the Nats
and see like at least a national game, not a Nationals game, but like a
national
Cubs versus Brewers game.
Right.
I should be able to see that without like it being special Sunday Night Baseball or like the FS or Fox Sports Game of the Week, right? You should be able. There's so many games we should be able to watch it all the time, and we can't unless you purchase MLB Network.
I mean, the fact that we live in Virginia and can't watch an O's or Nats game because YouTube TV has a contract issue with Masson, and then MLB.TV blacks it out because it's a local game.
Yeah.
That's the dumb. The local blackouts are the dumbest things on MLB TV. I pay for MLB TV. I should be able to watch whatever game I want.
It's hurting the game more. I would argue more than anything else because it limits exposure.
Yes, correct.
Right. I mean, think about the exposure that we can turn the TV on and watch anything we want NBA wise. Right. There's probably 3 NBA games on tonight that you could watch. Right. Probably. Easily, no matter just having basic cable. Right, NBA TV is available to everyone who's got YouTube TV and like all these other platforms. Right, you could watch anything you want. So the exposure to that is incredible, and the way the NBA markets itself on social media. Yeah, you may not agree with it, right? The TikTok crap that they do, but it's still exposure. You're seeing it. People know about it without having to seek it out. But unfortunately, we've gotten to the stage where you got to seek out baseball if you're not a baseball fan, which is ridiculous because more people are going to attend a baseball game this year than any of the other 3 major leagues combined, the NFL, the NBA, and the NHL. More people will attend a baseball game this year than attend a NFL game, an NBA game, or an NHL game combined for the whole year. But yet, it's so hard for me to sit here and watch on TV.
The fact that I can't watch a local team.
Yeah, and I digest. Right. Baseball, like I said, we kicked it off this weekend. Tyler O'Neill, now on the Orioles, is the king of opening day. He went 3 for 3 with a home run, and the Orioles' 12-2 opening day win over the Toronto Blue Jays. He has now hit a home run on opening day in 6 straight seasons, which is a record. And he's done so with 3 different teams. He's on the Orioles now. Last year he was on the Red Sox. Before that, he was on the Cardinals. That's it's mind-boggling. And he's Canadian.
You just blew my mind.
Yeah, yep. It's like my thoughts are trapped in a bottle. Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper both homered, and Alex Boehm had a go-ahead 2 RBI double as the Phillies beat the Nats 7-3 in 10 innings on opening day.
And boom goes the dynamite.
Thank you. And the Phillies, I believe, took that series 2-1, 2-1 over the Nats to open the year. Cameron Meisner hit a walk-off home run for his first Major League home run as the Rays defeated the Rockies 3-2 to start their season at Steinbrenner Field. Meisner is the first player ever to have an opening day walk-off homer as his first career home run. His walk-off is the 5th ever walk-off home run at a stadium's first Major League regular season game because Steinbrenner Field is the spring training facility of the New York Yankees. So it's the first time they've hosted a regular season game. The others in 2021, Tim Anderson at the Field of Dreams.
Oh, yep.
The next one in 2008, you should know this. Who was it?
In 2008?
Yes. Walk-off in the stadium's first ever regular season game.
In the stadium's first ever regular... Oh, it's Ryan Zimmerman.
Mm-hmm. From
UVA.
From UVA. Ryan Zimmerman for the Nats at Nats Park in 2008. Dante Bichette at Coors Field in 1995. And, of course, we all know Bill Bruton at Milwaukee County Stadium in 1953. Can't forget that. After the Tigers tied it in the ninth to force extras and then scored 2 in the top of the 10th, Mookie Betts, all 100 left of him, hit a walk-off 3-run homer, his second home run of the game, to lift LA to an 8-5 victory over Detroit on Friday night.
That should show to you don't have to be big to hit a home run, because he lost like 50 pounds from food poisoning.
It's still an anomaly. Him and Altuve are still anomalies, but you're right. You don't have to be 6'7", 280 like Aaron Judge is. Speaking of Aaron Judge, the Yankees started their Saturday game against the Brewers by hitting back-to-back-to-back homers on the first 3 pitches they saw of the game against Nasty Nestor, former Yankee great. First 3 batters were Paul Goldschmidt, Cody Bellinger, and the aforementioned Aaron Judge. Catcher Austin Wells added another home run later in the inning as the Yankees would go on to club a franchise record 9 homers in that game, which is 1 short of the Major League record. I believe the Reds did it in like the late 90s. I think the other team to do it was the Blue Jays, who got 9. I think also around like the late or early 90s there. But I want to say it's the Reds in the late 90s have the record of 10 home runs in a game. Yankees would go on to beat Milwaukee 20-9. Judge in that game went 4 for 6 with 2 home runs, a double. Actually, sorry, 2 more home runs. So he had 3 home runs, a double, and a career high 8 runs batted in. One of his double hit off like the wall in right field. He inside outed a pitch off the wall in right field. And then he like just missed when Jake Bauers came in to pitch as a position player. He just missed the curveball he threw up there. It was amazing. He could have had a 4 home run game, which I believe
Josh Hamilton.
Well, Lou Gehrig, I think, did it for the Yankees. So I want to say Lou Gehrig is the only Yankee to ever do that. You have to double check me on that. The Yankees would eventually sweep the Brewers thanks to another home run by Judge in their 12-3 win on Sunday. Judge's 4 home runs through his team's first 3 games is a Yankee record. Second most home runs through a team's first 2 games. The only other player to have more is Adrian Gonzalez, who had 5 in 2015. Who's going to get that answered? No one. I loved Adrian Gonzalez's swing.
You are correct, by the way. Lou Gehrig.
Yep.
32.
Yeah, very good. Just don't wear his pants, Big Stein. The Marlins took 3 out of 4 against the Pirates to open their season, with all 3 victories coming via walk-off. They had an RBI single by former Orioles great Kyle Stowers on Thursday. Dane Myers hit an RBI single on Saturday in the 12th inning to walk them off there. And Derek Hill scored on a wild pitch on Sunday to do that. They're the first team to have their first 3 wins of the season come via walk-off since 2003 team.
Since 2003?
Mm-hmm.
Red Sox?
I'll give you a hint. The team no longer goes by this name.
The Guardians. I guess Cleveland Indians?
No, the Devil Rays.
Damn.
I thought that was a good hint.
That's a good hint.
It was the Devil Rays. Lest we forget that
they were wearing
the Devil
Rays.
I saw those
this weekend.
They should bring those back. They're ridiculous.
Yeah.
Just go black and white with just that fluorescent like multicolor scheme for everything. It's perfect. Beautiful. It's like in an odd way simple with combining complex. It's what we need more of today. Next, moving on, after Martin Perez threw 6 hitless innings in a 9-0 win over Minnesota on Monday, the White Sox became the 4th team since 1913 to have their first 4 starters pitch at least 5 innings and give up 0 earned runs. The White Sox. That's why I'm wearing the ridiculous White Sox shirt today, because I was like, is this going to be the only time we'll ever talk glowingly about the White Sox? Yes. However,
it was funny. Yeah, the amount of people that were like, all right, it's opening day, and White Sox, it's that like Family Guy thing, the White Sox season's over, and shut out. Who's their coach or manager?
I think it's Will Venable, former Padres great, I believe. Will Venable. I think you're gonna have to look that one up. But to be clear, we're not saying that the White Sox. We're not saying that the White Sox shut out the Angels in all of those games. What we're saying here is their starters haven't given up an earned run, and they've each pitched at least 5 innings. And then the game Perez threw did result in a shutout. The other teams to do it, though, the 2019 Blue Jays, the 2013 Giants, and of course the 1976 Brewers. How can we forget them? Which is an eclectic mix of teams, because that 2013 Giants is one of the teams that didn't go to the World Series. You remember they were every year 10, 12, and 14, right? 2019 Blue Jays, I don't know what. That was before COVID. Who knows what's going on there? That's so long ago to me. It's a lifetime ago.
No, that's not the bat flip, is it?
It might be.
Jose Bautista.
It might be, but you don't think. Yeah, well, you think of the Blue Jays though during that era. You don't think of pitching. You think of the bat flip and Josh Donaldson and Edwin Encarnacion.
Yep.
Yeah, mashing it right. And the Brewers, I don't know who's even on that Brewers team. It's not Plesac. There's got some Raleigh fingers going on there. Is that at that time? I don't know. That's so long ago. Next, Ellie De La Cruz went 4 for 5 with 2 home runs, a double, a career-high 7 RBIs, and, of course, a stolen base, right? Just why not? In the Reds' romp of Texas 14-3 Monday night in Cincinnati. And then the last one here, catcher Carson Kelly. Say that
5 times fast. There you go.
Catcher Carson Kelly hit for the first Cubs cycle since Mark Grace on May 9th, 1993, in the Cubs' 18-3 demolition of the Athletics in Sacramento Monday. Mark Grace was the last Cub to hit for the cycle, and Carson Kelly went and done it the other night.
He was on Arizona last year, right?
Yeah, I remember it was, he started in St. Louis, and the whole thing was free Carson Kelly because he was like a big-time prospect, but he was obviously behind Yadi Molina. And so St. Louis, Molina kept playing, and you're not going to push Molina out. And so St. Louis kind of got the dilemma of what to do and shipped him to Arizona, and he didn't win the job over in Arizona, and now he finds himself on the Cubs, and I don't even know if he's the everyday starter. I think he's still like splitting time or backing up, but that's hilarious. The catcher gives us our first cycle of the season. Anything else baseball wise before we move on?
I mean, torpedo bats.
Of course.
You have to talk about the torpedo
I know.
bats.
Say what you're going to say, and unless you want me to go first, I will go first.
No. I was just going to say, like, I have no issue with them because they're legal.
Yeah.
There's someone on the Yankees found a way to do it. Now every team's going to do it. I believe Trevor McGill, if I have this quote right, I mean, it was maybe taken out of context here a little bit.
Isn't he a pitcher?
Yeah. He says the Yankees, so they'll let it slide.
Which is hilarious because it's actually the opposite. The only reason this is being brought up as negative is that it is the Yankees.
It's because the Yankees did.
As a Red Sox fan, you're going to agree with me on this. If this were the Orioles or the Cubs or even the Red Sox, they would view this as innovative, groundbreaking.
Correct. Yes.
Remarkable. They would be lauding those teams. They would be all the superlatives you could think of being thrown out there. Every pundit in the country will be writing about the brilliance of the Orioles front office and what a great job they do in their analytics department. And everyone would be rushing out to hire people to do this if it were the Orioles. But because it's the Yankees, it
has to be illegal. Something's got to be wrong.
Yes, it's not fair.
Yeah, I agree with you. And people on social media think the opposite. They literally just, no matter what the Yankees do, they would just say it's wrong.
Yes.
Yeah, something they did is just incorrect or whatever. Or they're cheating somehow.
Which is funny because the Yankees
the way I look at it is like
cheat.
Everybody can do this, right?
Yes.
So either every team will do this, and then if the numbers continue to go through the roof. Like, I believe Ellie De La Cruz used a torpedo bat
during that game, yeah.
During that game. So if the numbers keep going up, then maybe MLB will come in and be like, okay, we need to go back to the other bats. But they have a rule that says it has to be like 2.61 inches around in diameter or whatever it is. And all they did, at its thickest part, and they just moved the wood from one spot a little bit closer to the label.
Yeah,
you still have to hit the ball.
Yeah, adjustments in the form and use of a bat are nothing new to Major League Baseball. Remember the axe handle that came out? How is this any different than the axe handle? It's literally changing the complexion of the bat, how you hold it, and the way you're going to swing and where your hands are positioned, right? That's a change in it, right? People forever have been doing this, right? Soriano, the great Alfonso Soriano, swung a bat that was like 34 inches, 37 ounces, something ridiculous, right? He did it because it gave him an advantage, and it was in the rules. But, if Soriano went on to be a Hall of Famer and the greatest second baseman that ever lived because he's a Yankee, we're going to sit there and deride him and put him down and say, oh, he cheated because he used too big of a bat, right? Babe Ruth, I think, swung a giant piece of wood out there, right? These things are nothing new. Like, to try to find a way to maximize your output with a bat. I mean, hell, that's right. Go to the metal bats, right? That's where they switch from one core to the BB core is what they use now, right? That's a completely different thing. It's all different. Things have switched, and now there's different diameters on those metal bats too. Again, it's a lazy argument to sit there and get mad at it. I feel like it's lazy sentiment. It's looking to be outraged because being outraged is fun and it's in vogue, and we have to find an issue with something because that's what ESPN has taught us to do. We have to find an issue with something, and we have to get mad at it, and we have to pick the person who is the least amount of victim, which is the Yankees, and least percent victim, and go after them, right? That's essentially all this is. If this were the lowly Orioles or the Pirates, we'd be saying this is brilliant. We'd be talking about, is this the way that the Pirates are going to turn around and have a renaissance and get back to the Willie Stargell, we are family Pirates? But because it's the Yankees, because they had success with it too, the other thing too is they weren't even the first team to do it. I believe Nico Horner last year is the first player to use it on the Cubs. And no one's going to...
Yeah, the Yankees used, I think Stanton used his in the postseason last year.
Yeah, I mean, and
it's been around for some reason. I guess because they jumped out to the ridiculous, back-to-back-to-back home runs, hit 9 home runs in a game, that we have to look at it now. But
Judge doesn't even use it, by the way, for people who want to go out there and complain. No, Judge does not use this bat. The only people on...
That's also a thing I was thinking of, too, is, that's got to feel weird. It's a different spot you're hitting.
Yes, it changes the weight distribution, which again, going back to, people choked up on the bat because they wanted to change where the barrel was in relation to their hands. Let's make that illegal because that's cheating, because that changed where the barrel is by me choking up on the bat. That is essentially what you are arguing here if you're arguing against this, right? The bat is weighing the same. It's not more wood. It's not extra wood. The sweet spot's not bigger. It meets all the dimensions. They just moved some of the wood from one spot to the other, right?
Correct.
And what I do think this might create is a more precise customization of bats for these guys, where they'll put guys into...
It's like a golf club.
Yes, exactly. They'll put guys into a simulator, and they'll have these guys hit, and they'll map where the ball made contact with their bat in that precise spot, and they'll make that part the biggest part of their bat, or essentially where the barrel is. So that way you're maximizing where you hit the ball. And there's...
smart.
Any different from the pitchers using those Rapsodo machines and going to all these pitching clinics where they have all these high-tech cameras and maximizing spin rate and all those things. How is this any different than that? No, it's not. You know why it's different?
Because the Yankees.
Because the Yankees. That is literally the only reason. If this were other teams, it's not. I mean, it'll be talked about because, this could revolutionize. I think that's the biggest revolutionary thing there is how they're going to customize bats to guys. I think that's what's going to come out of this. And it should be talked about because it is brilliant for them to think of it. But it's not illegal. There's nothing wrong with it. Baseball should be leaning into this because if this is going to help guys hit the ball more and hit it harder, as opposed to the crappy games that we see where it's either 12-2 because guys just go up there try to hit home runs, or it's 1-0 because guys can't hit the ball because the pitchers are so ridiculous now. If this makes it so there's more 5-4 games, then every baseball fan should be more all for it.
Yeah.
Right? There's nothing wrong with a 7-6 baseball game. There's not, but that's few and far between because guys are going to bat 220. The league batting average is the lowest it's ever been in the history of the league since before the dead ball era, or before the live ball era, during the dead ball era. So there should be nothing wrong with this. The league should be telling people to go they should make this standard of what your bat is, or give guys the option of being do you want this or this? And that should be in every clubhouse across the league.
I believe every team has put in their orders for it.
Yeah, boom.
Again, why would you not? Right?
Unless you don't like it. Some guys, it's not going to work based off of where they make contact with the ball, right? Again, Aaron Judge doesn't use it. It doesn't work for him. And it probably makes sense. His arms are longer. You don't want necessarily the barrel to be closer to his hands because of how big he is. I could see how that makes a difference there. But if this makes you hit the ball better, who cares?
Right.
Moving on, do you have the NHL standings pulled up for us?
Yep, I can get to that right now.
And so we talked about last week, the NHL is wrapping up the regular season. Less than 10 games left, really, for every team. We talk about the Caps have already clinched a playoff spot. It's really between them and the Jets to see who's got the President's Trophy. I want to say that the Stars are kind of close to them. If you scroll down to the West, they're kind of close to them. Yeah, the Stars who have also clinched a playoff spot along with Winnipeg. Don't know if the Stars can catch them, but they're in that mix, right? There's a few games left. The West is pretty much set playoff-wise. You have the 6 teams you see there. They're going to make it the Jets, Stars, and Avalanche in the Central, and the Knights, Kings, and Oilers in the Pacific. And then the Wild and the Blues look like they're going to be the wild card teams there. It's going to be hard for Calgary and Vancouver to catch them. Everyone else below that is done. Utah and Anaheim can get there, and the rest of those teams are already eliminated. So the race in the West isn't as compelling as what you're going to see in the East, where you have, Washington obviously with the best record leading the Metropolitan, the Hurricanes and the Devils. Like those three teams seem to be locked up. The Devils are kind of maybe in a precarious spot if they were to slump, especially because they played, like, look at the games played, 76 compared to the 73. So they played more games than anyone else. The Panthers, Lightning, and Maple Leafs all seem to be, pretty set there as well in a pretty tight race. That could be interesting too up there in that Atlantic Division, because getting that one seed, would possibly mean that you play,
home ice.
Yeah, home ice, and you've got, an Ottawa team who I like, but I don't want to play them. But it could be the Devils, right? You slip. I'd rather, if I'm the Maple Leafs, I want to be that one seed. I want to play the Devils, right? Especially how they're going to be without Jack Hughes. But what's interesting is those wildcard teams in the East. Yes, Ottawa, it should feel fairly safe. We've talked about it at length. I love Ottawa. I love what they're doing. I love what they're all about, who they have. But Montreal, New York, Columbus, Detroit, and the Islanders, all there. I mean, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams for one spot that all could legitimately get there. I think Pittsburgh, Philly, Boston, Buffalo, even though they're not officially eliminated, they're all done, right?
Yeah.
So any of those teams have a shot at there. And, my Rangers are probably the most dangerous of those. That's a team won the President's Trophy last year. They should have been better than they are this year. They should not be even fighting for a playoff spot. All the turmoil we talked about, they traded Trouba, they've traded a bunch of different guys. They traded Capo Caco away, brought in all, different pieces. You've had, all this stuff, but you still have the constants of Panarin and Zibanejad and Kreider and Shesterkin and Adam Fox. You got those guys there that are still that core, and they're starting to play a little better. Now, not playing the best, and the reason they're in contention is because the other teams aren't playing that well either. But it's still not a team. Like, if I'm Toronto and I have the Caps, actually, is who's in position to play this team. If I'm the Caps and I have my pick of any teams, the Rangers are probably the last team I want to play out of all those. I will take Montreal, Columbus, Detroit, and the Islanders 100 times out of 100 before I take the Rangers.
Look at the goal differential.
Isn't that incredible? The Canadiens minus 26. They can make the playoffs if it ended today.
Crazy. I mean, look at New York's the only one down here with a positive.
I mean, again, just talent level and pedigree. You don't want to play them, and also the demons that exist there in a Rangers Capitals playoff series for Washington is well documented. I mean, it's felt like they've played each other every other year. There was a few years they played them every year, right? And the Rangers won like every time. So it's not something. If I'm a Caps fan, I don't want that. That's like the last thing I want is to.
Yeah, if you're a Caps fan, I know you've had. Conlo's not here, but I know you've had an incredible year, right? Yep. Ovi's got this magical, record-breaking year, potentially, like, chasing down Gretzky, like, incredible year, but don't you kind of feel like, here we go again with the one seed?
A little bit, but these Caps are built differently. We talked about it before, whereas those previous ones under, like, the Bruce Boudreau era were light on defense. Had no defense, didn't have great goaltending. This Caps team plays an all-around game. They can beat you, like we talked about earlier with Bama, how they only beat you one way. The Caps can beat you in a multitude of ways. And they have the youth mixed with the veteran leadership. They have a championship pedigree there, right? They won, was it 2018, 2017? Is that when they won? I forget when it was. But
yeah, I want to say 2018.
They have that there. So that's at least going for them, where you should feel confident. You shouldn't care who you play, but man, if I'm a Caps fan, last thing I want to see is the Rangers squeak in. That's the absolute worst. Give me the Canadiens all day. That doesn't scare me in the slightest playing Montreal.
I would agree. It's also not a regional rivalry.
No.
Right? You don't have that little hatred. Well, fan hatred. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree with you on that.
Yeah. Ovi, I believe, sits at 890 career goals, which puts him at 5 goals from breaking Gretzky's record of 894. Amazing. He just keeps scoring goals. It's incredible because when you do watch him, you can tell he's aged. Right? He's not the same Ovi that we're used to seeing, and not the same Ovi we've seen before. He's lost a step. He's fairly one dimensional, kind of out there at times, maybe even a liability because he doesn't. I mean, again, he's recovered. He broke his leg earlier this year, right? And
Yes, that
he's a
needs to be
hockey player.
documented. Yes.
That's why he's out there. But for him to still be putting the puck in the net is unreal. So hopefully he can get that done. Well, we got 9 games left to get 5 goals. That's going to be tough.
I agree with you. I really hope he does it this year.
Mm-hmm.
Because the same thing we talked about last week. I don't want to see him break it in November in a game where like, no one's really paying attention. No one cares. Like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like I really hope he does it this year.
I do too. We just talked about goal differential. Who has the best goal differential in the league, by the way?
I've got Caps have 70, Lightning with 69.
Magic number.
Oh my goodness. Winnipeg with 83. It's Winnipeg.
83. I'm still taking the Kings to come out of the West. Every time I watch them, I'm just impressed.
So give me Winnipeg's stars.
There's Connor Hellebuck. There's Kyle Connor.
Okay.
Mark Scheifele. Josh Morrissey on defense. I'm missing a couple people, but that's kind of your core there of Winnipeg. They can beat you in a lot of different ways too, but their biggest weakness, I think, is defensively. They rely too much on Hellebuck, who is arguably the greatest goalie in the world right now, and is arguably the best American goalie ever. Right, so they rely way too much on him to bail them out. And his playoff record is not that good. So that should scare Winnipeg a little bit. Did they shore up their defense enough to help him out so that he doesn't have to stand on his head to lead you to a Stanley Cup?
Yeah. How much are you looking at who's coming in hot? Because I got St. Louis Blues right now.
They're the reason that this race is kind of over. They heated up. They got on a heater. I mean, look at that. Like you said, winners of 9 straight, and they've created that separation between them and the Flames and the Canucks. And they're still alive, but a team being that hot, you really think that they're going to catch them? I don't think so.
So if you're sitting here, like Winnipeg would end up playing them, right? Is that how it works, or is that not how it works?
No, would. Okay. Number one overall plays the second wildcard team. Yeah. Right. Do I want to play St. Louis, who's scorching hot?
Team in the league.
Yeah.
Right. That's just a bad break.
No, I the NHL should go back to East and West and do top 8, as opposed to the way they do this. It wouldn't make a difference in this case, right? They would still technically be the 8th team points wise, but you get the potential for some, off balance matchups. And I know the reason they did it is to get that you're always going to have an intra-divisional matchup, right? If it ended now, Kings played Oilers, Stars played Avalanche, right? That Stars Avalanche series is epic.
Yeah.
But you kind of wish that wouldn't happen right off the bat, that the Stars would play Minnesota. So they should be rewarded for that as opposed to having to play the Avalanche. That's where this format kind of screws it screws the teams that don't win their division.
Gotcha.
Yep. Anything else hockey-wise before we move on?
Nope.
All right, can we get the NBA standings real quick, boy?
Yes. Ask and you shall receive.
Dead air.
NBA standings. Do you want dead air or do you want the NBA standings?
You can play dead air while I look at the standings. That is my favorite part.
Dead air.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you. Scroll up.
Give me a second. You got me all messed up.
Yep. All right. So East, we talked about Cleveland. Been the dominant force in the East this year. Amazingly, the defending champion Celtics are not far behind. and it's not amazing because you're shocked at how good the Celtics have played. It's amazing because the Cavaliers have played so well this year that
They're
the
only
fact,
4
they're
games
only
out.
4 games up, right? The Knicks have clinched a playoff spot, but that more is about how god awful the East is. The play-in stuff, I don't even want to get into explaining it this week. Maybe we'll explain
No,
it in a later week, but
you did
basically it
it that
means that
one.
if you're in the
You did it
East
that
and I
one week,
finish
and it bothered me.
around 10 games below 500, I have a chance to get in the playoffs.
You did it. You did it a couple weeks ago, and it bothered the hell out of me. So we can skip it.
Yep. I believe the Thunder have surpassed the Cavaliers for the best record in the NBA, which is another remarkable
Yes, they have.
thing. It's a testament to how consistently good they've been. It's a testament to how they built their team, because it's not just SGA, right? We focus on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, rightfully so. I think he'll win MVP just because of how. I mean, yes, he's been at that level. It's his turn, right? You could give it to Jokic, but right, you're going to put this guy. He's not just the best player on the best team. He's putting up MVP quality caliber numbers and leading his team to the best record. So I think well deserved for him to win that if he does. Still amazing to me that the Rockets are number 2. I don't fully believe in them, but we've talked about them before, how they're sneaky. They got the pieces. I think next year might be more of their time, but as we saw with the Timberwolves, right? They fell off precipitously after they had their breakout last year. They're sitting 7th there. And I mean, it's the West. The West is always tight. So the difference between 7 and 2
5.
is like
Yeah.
not that many games, right? 7 and 3 is 4 games. So, you got that there. The Lakers have cooled off a bit. They were the talk of the town after they got Luka. The Mavericks have moved themselves into that play-in spot, 9 there, even without Doncic. Wouldn't that be something if we could get the Mavericks to play the Lakers?
Yeah. Without.
Yeah. How do we get that, right? The Lakers could move up. They could get to 2. Yeah, that's how we got to do it. The Lakers get to 2, and the Mavericks got to make it into the play-in, but they have to be. They probably got to get to 8 though, because it's something stupid where if they're 9 and they're getting into the play-in, probably one of the teams above them are also getting in. They're knocking one of those out, so they would still wind up being the 8 seed and play Oklahoma City. So we gotta get them to move up a little bit. That may not happen based off of the number of games that are left, but the West is always, for whatever reason, more stacked. The Suns are on the outside looking in, and that's a loaded team. Right? Think about all the stars that are on that team.
If you're the Suns, how do you 5 games under 500?
Because it's not a spreadsheet. It's not a video game.
116.4. God, the opponent's points per game is crazy in all of these.
There's a hunger aspect to sports. And if you look at the teams that are at the top right now,
best defense.
Hunger is what, Oklahoma City is the best defensive team, I believe. They have the top 2 guys. Win shares is what the NBA uses for their WAR, wins above replacement, right? And they do offensive win shares and defensive win shares. Oklahoma City, I believe last time I checked, is the top 2 defenders in terms of win shares in the league. SGA is one of them. So that's part of his case. He's an all-around player, by the way. SGA is one of them. And I want to say it's Jalen Williams, I believe is who they have on OKC, I think he's rated as the top defender in the league. So, yeah, Oklahoma City should scare the crap out of everyone. Obviously, that's why they have the best record. But they got the pieces, and they can play, like we said before, they can win anyway. They can win with defense. They can win with offense. They can win in transition. They can win in half court. They can win with they're going to have SGA step up, though. They can win without him being on, but it's not as likely. They don't have the scoring depth that you need, even with the Chet Holmgren out there, and like the Jalen Williams is again really good. You don't have he's the option, right? Whereas the Cavaliers and the Celtics, their main guy doesn't have to be going. Like Jason Tatum could be off, and Jaylen Brown wins the game for you, right? or both of them are off and Porzingis wins a game for you. Or Peyton Pritchard steps up and drops 35 one night to win a game. Same with Cleveland. Donovan Mitchell doesn't have to score 40 for you to win. They have all the pieces to win, right? So that is the one qualm for me about OKC is that they're a little too reliant on SGA.
To quote something.
Oh, thank you.
You know what? You know what's fun about this though is that Cleveland and Oklahoma City they haven't really been there before. Besides, like Cleveland with the LeBron years, like it's
in OKC with the Durant.
Correct. So these are like their new years for them, and you're looking at the Celtics been there, done that, right? Denver been there, done that. Lakers been there, done that. So I think it's fun that your two favorites are also teams that are, haven't been there with this core of players, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's a pretty fun.
No, it's fun. It should be talked about more, but you'll never hear the mothership bring it up,
right? Because those teams aren't sexy.
No, it's not. Playing team basketball? What the hell is that? Lay Grill? What the hell is that?
How's your father's grill coming? I think it's almost done.
Why must I fail at every attempt at masonry?
English side ruined. Must use French side. Yeah. I'm glad we bring up the standings because I don't think I've even seen like a commercial or a Twitter like clip talking about Cleveland or Oklahoma City.
Yeah. No, I mean it's kind of, that's we lauded the NBA earlier about how they market their product and expose it, but this is the evil flip side of that is that it is so just done on profit.
Boston, New York.
Yeah, it's not just that. It's which guy is trending on TikTok like LaMelo Ball down there in Charlotte, who they have the second worst record in the NBA. He's one of the most popular players in the NBA. His shoe sells more than almost any other player because he will go on TikTok after games and like, so easy, bro. I just dropped 20. I can do this like this. Right? And it's all the crap that the kids eat up and it's making money, right? But yet he's garbage. They're garbage. And I know the great Doug Howard would back me up on this, that he stinks. Their team stinks for a reason. But money don't lie. He will have accrued generational wealth by the time he's finished playing. He will have so much money. His family will have so much money. Won't know what to do with it. And the NBA is profiting big time. Whoever makes his shoe, let's just assume it's Nike, right? Whoever makes his shoe is profiting big time. So as long as the money goes in your pocket, who cares? But that's the flip side of what the NBA does well is that they opens the door up for that, which is just ruining essentially competitive basketball because he's out there literally just chucking the ball looking for a highlight. No, his shoes are sweet. His shoes are sweet. It's ridiculous. Like it's like, come on, man.
I like the purple.
Oh,
I like this color combo.
They're all pretty good. I mean, one of the Puma. That's who makes his shoe.
Puma.
Really? Yes. No. They're all. That's a good looking shoe, but man,
that's a pretty good one.
If you look at win shares too, I brought up win shares. His win shares are garbage, but yet he averages like 23 points a game and all this crap, and it's like you're ruining competitive basketball, but you're making a lot of money for yourself and a lot of other people. That's
hard to blame him.
I know, but that's the yin and yang to it, right? Anything else NBA wise before we move on? I got some college hockey stuff.
Yeah, let's get to college hockey.
Yes. So college hockey, we talked about it last week as one of our things to watch. The Frozen Four is what they call their Final Four in their tournament. That's been set on the men's side. We talk about the women, the Wisconsin Badgers won on the women's side. The men's side is now at their Frozen Four. BU, which is who, boy?
Boston University Terriers.
Thank you. They advanced to their 25th Frozen Four thanks to Quinn Hudson's overtime winner in a 3-2 victory over Cornell. Ever heard of it?
Please tell me that dude's from Massachusetts. Quinn Hudson?
I hope so.
God, I gotta look him up. That sounds like a Southie.
He's probably Canadian.
Is it Hudson with a T or
the T? Yeah, believe so. Matt.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we're both way off. You know where he's from?
Florida.
Barrington, Illinois.
Oh wow. Good for him. Matt DiMarcico scored the game-winning goal in overtime to send Penn State to the Frozen Four for the first time ever with a 3-2 victory over UConn. UConn was also seeking their first Frozen Four appearance. I believe this is the first time UConn's ever made it to the tournament, actually. Penn State started their hockey program in 2012, 2013.
Wow.
Yeah. And they
Frozen Four.
Yep, and they'll play the Terriers in the Frozen Four. On the other side of the bracket, Western Michigan secured their first ever berth in the Frozen Four thanks to 2 goals during a 5-minute major power play in a 2-1 win over UMass. That power play spanned like the end of the second period and the beginning of the third period, and that was really the difference there in the game against UMass.
You said it's a 5-minute?
5-minute major. So it's unreleasable, as in like you can score as many times as you want. I don't know. I mean, it had to have been something where it was close to being ejectable. Because normally what you would see, maybe the guy did get ejected actually, but
like throwing a bow high or something.
Yeah, like a strike to the face, and even further dangerous boarding that maybe resulted in injury, something like that. Last team to fill out the Frozen Four, Denver. They kept their quest for a repeat alive by defeating the number 1 overall seed Boston College Eagles 3-1. They will play Western Michigan. Western Michigan, by the way, the late, great John Saunders played hockey there at Western Michigan.
Really?
Yes. Him and his brother played there. And I believe after a few years, he transferred to a Canadian school because he's Canadian. So transferred to a Canadian school to finish out his hockey career, but he played at Western Michigan, the Broncos.
So we have Broncos versus Pioneers. What's the
other side? Terriers and Nittany Lions, which isn't a real thing, by the way.
Correct. It's Mount Nittany. That's the mountain that's there, Mount Nittany. And then the lion, it's a cougar.
A mountain lion. A puma.
Yeah, it's a mountain lion. Panther.
Same difference.
There might be one more. I might be missing one.
Catamount.
That's it.
Catamount. The more you know. Brought to you by What Caught My Eye. Moving on to golf. On the men's side, on the PGA Tour this past week, Min-Woo Lee, crowd favorite. He won by 1 shot over Scotty Scheffler and Gary Woodland, at finishing at -20 to win the Texas Children's Houston Open. It's Min-Woo's first career PGA Tour title. Good for him. On the women's side, Lilia Vu got up and down on the 18th hole for par to force a playoff with Hyoju Kim. Kim prevailed on the first playoff hole by making birdie on that aforementioned 18th hole. Kim shot a final round 64, forced that to make that playoff possible, and collected her 7th career win on the LPGA Tour. Good stuff there. I think it was a Ford Championship is what the women's one was, which I think is only in its 2nd year of existence. It's out in Arizona. I forget where in Arizona, but it looked nice. What I liked is they played a little later, so you could turn that on at like 6, 7 o'clock, and they were still playing that. That's my type of golf. Anything else golf-wise?
No.
NASCAR, Denny Hamlin won for the 6th time at Martinsville. It's the first time that he has won at Martinsville since 2015. As we know, Denny Hamlin's a local guy from Chester, Virginia. Martinsville is on like the border between Virginia and North Carolina. Their races there are like the event of the year in Martinsville. It's like where they generate their money there. It's literally just an open field and just a tiny track, and you can see everything, and it's just one for the books, as is every other NASCAR race. But Martinsville's got that little different feel.
Does Virginia have the smallest tracks?
Yes.
Because Richmond's really small.
Richmond's small. Martinsville and Bristol are 2 smallest. I think Richmond's the 3rd.
So Virginia literally has the 3 smallest. I mean, I guess Tennessee is Bristol-ish. I believe the track is actually in Tennessee.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Whatever. But I think Bristol's technically the smallest, but Bristol has such high banking that you're able to go pretty fast on that track. Martinsville is completely flat. There's no banking, so they can't go fast at all. Oh, it's hilarious. It's literally like a little kid playing with cars. You just smash them into each other because it's just completely flat, just going 80 miles an hour, if that, around this the little thing. It is hilarious to watch.
Wonder what their angle is. The angle of the bank.
It is small. You could look that one up. It's probably close to 0. It is like nothing. Whereas Bristol's got, I want to say, the sharpest angle at Bristol. Like you would roll down that hill. Even Richmond's got some good banking. Not that much as some other places, but if you ever walked on the Richmond track, which I have before, you would fall over if you're not in the right state of mind. And that one from afar doesn't look like it has much banking at all.
It's 11 degrees at Martinsville.
I'm shocked it's that much. I'm like blown away. It looks completely flat if you're standing right there. But good for Denny.
Let's see what Richmond's is.
Good for Denny. I know Denny gets a lot of flack, but local guy, and he just wins. He just needs to win a title. He might wind up going down as the best driver ever to not win a championship.
So Richmond is 14 degrees.
Really? It seems way more banked than Martinsville.
Right, but you gotta that 3 degree difference is probably huge.
Yeah. Moving on, before we get to our final segments, tennis. 19-year-old Jakub Menšík from Czechia, which used to be the Czech Republic, by the way, defeated Novak Djokovic to win the Miami Open for his first career title. When he won, he went up to the camera, and they signed the camera in tennis. He signed it first of many, which I thought was awesome. Right? He tried to withdraw from the tournament before it even started. Before his open round match, he had like the swelling in his knee, and he couldn't move it, like hurt so bad. So he went to go to the referee's office before the match, say, hey, I have to withdraw, right? He goes to the office and it says, like, out for lunch. And he's like, well, what am I going to do now? I'll go to the trainer, see what the trainer says. Goes to the trainer's like, this really isn't that bad. Here, let me work on you with this, take these painkillers, this and this. And he was like, yeah, you know what? Doesn't feel that bad. A couple hours till match time, I'll go for it, whatever. Beats Roberto Bautista Agut, who's a former top player, and winds up beating Djokovic in the final of this to win. And yet he almost didn't even play his first match.
Yeah, bruise on the leg is a hell of a long way from the heart.
Thank you, Ib. Anything else before we move on to our favorites this week?
Nope.
All right, so that's going to take us to our favorite segment, which, as always, is brought to you by One Legacy Title and Escrow in Jacksonville, Florida. Visit them at onelegacyflorida.com and follow them on Instagram at onelegacyflorida to see how they can help you with your next house closing. One Legacy Title and Escrow, because your legacy matters. And this week, we went with our favorite basketball coaches of all time. Boy, would you like to start?
Yes, mine are all college, by the way. Well, I guess someone did coach in the NBA. But I have 2 honorable mentions. The first one is former Richmond great John Beilein.
Really?
Yeah, he went Richmond to West Virginia to Michigan.
And then to the Cavaliers, and then done.
Yeah, correct.
Dunzos.
He has 2 Final Fours, by the way.
With who? Michigan and West Virginia?
Michigan and Michigan.
He took Michigan to Final Four twice?
Yeah.
Really? Not Pittsnogle never made it?
No, I think they got Elite 8, I want to say, or Sweet 16. Pittsnogle, yeah, it was that was a heartbreak, I believe, was the Pittsnogle. But also he made it because of Pittsnogle. All-time great name.
He could have easily been on our favorite college basketball players list.
I believe he's from Martinsburg area. I want to say he's from that area. Hedgesville, Martinsburg, somewhere around there. Next honorable mention, Leonard Hamilton, Florida State. One of the most underrated coaches ever. I feel like you could get all the ACC coaches in a room and ask them who wants to play Florida State, and no one would raise their hand.
Yeah.
That was Florida State.
All the old ACC coaches.
Yes, correct. All the old ACC.
Boeheim, Coach K, Tony Bennett, Roy Williams, Mike Bray.
Correct. No one would want to play Leonard Hamilton's Florida State teams. They were always really, really long and athletic and pound the glass. Like, I swear their team would average like 6'8". Like, and it's not hyperbole. Number 5, we talked about this guy at length and hoping he wins a national championship, Kelvin Sampson. Just, he's been one of the greats for a long time, and I really hope he gets to the national championship. It's hard to win a national championship, as we've seen. So I'm hoping he gets there and gets a chance to cut down the nets. I want to talk about a culture builder. Kelvin Sampson's a culture builder. Number 4, Notre Dame great Mike Bray.
He's a good coach.
It's my favorite offense ever to watch, is Notre Dame's offense. I thought it ran like an absolute well-oiled machine. Necessarily the like high scoring like Alabama does, where you're constantly up and down the court, but they were so efficient. They would always have an open look, and they would always have people that could put in the bucket. I absolutely loved watching that offense run. Number 3, back-to-back Final Fours with Wisconsin, Bo Ryan. Should have a national championship because Duke and the officials took that one away. That was garbage. But Bo Ryan, I believe he's a Hall of Famer. If not, he should be. Right? He is in the Hall of Fame, right?
He just got in a couple years ago.
Which is way too late.
Yes.
Fantastic coach. I love those Wisconsin teams. Number 2, probably the best coach of the last 15 years, Jay Wright. And he's been retired for like 5. 2 national championships with Villanova. I mean, the genius moves of being able to get his guards to play in the paint, to always find the mismatches, to just have his teams always ready, right? to take Villanova to win 2 national championships, basically coming out of nowhere. That's incredible. And I love listening to him on the sets, like the CBS sets. He's the one I want to listen to.
Yes, he should be the first person they cut to every time.
Correct. And he's the last one because his entertainment value. Because you have to go to Chuck and to Kenny. And all I want is Clark Kellogg and Jay Wright. That's all I want on the panel. So I can actually learn something from Jay Wright. And then number 1, your UVA, Tony Bennett. It's no mistake. Like, even if you didn't go to UVA, I would still be a UVA basketball fan because of him. He does everything the right way. I love the way his teams played. The defense first mindset. I mean, yes, they got into every now and then offensive droughts, but if you actually watch the way they run their offense, or the way he ran his offense, they would have an open look every time down the court. It's just a matter of putting the ball in the bucket, but they would always have an open man. And there's a reason why he won a national championship. And I believe like in 2 years, he won like 65 games and lost like 3 or 4 in that 2018-2019 run.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane what he was able to do to come into UVA and to completely turn that into a basketball school. That was incredible. So that's my list. I'll hang up and listen.
I like it. So I have one honorable mention. It is Dawn Staley, again from UVA. Arguably the best point guard to ever come through UVA basketball, by the way. And that's saying something considering the Ty Jeromes and London Prentices of the world that were there. That's how good she was. As a coach, I love the fact that she built her teams to be able to take away your best stuff, because she always has her team so balanced, right? And she has them balanced even through the bench. Like 1 through 8 could be the person who goes off and scores that night. And everyone, there's no superstar, there's no ego. It is
Belichickian.
It's win. This is how we're going to win. And it's amazing what she's done with that program too. And it's not like South Carolina basketball was anything. She literally created all of this herself from scratch, from nothing. Yeah, very well may go back to back this year. Shouldn't shock anyone at this point. Like you said, hard to bet against her and what she's built there in Columbia. Number 5, I have Eric Spoelstra. Yes, an NBA guy, but he's an underdog story. He started as like the video guy at Miami. Like he was just like the video guy and like the video editor or whatever, and moved his way up all the way to where he was the hand-picked successor to Pat Riley. Like Pat Riley said, this is who's going to be taking over. And Spoelstra has stayed there since. And he does so much a lot of times with not that much at all. Because that's, yes, you have the LeBron years, right, where you had everything, LeBron, Bosh, Wade. But outside of that, I don't want to say it's slim pickings. It's just he's not getting LeBrons of the world to come there, right? Because that's just not how the Heat always operates. But he always finds a way to win. Like he's one of the coaches, again, when it comes to crunch time, who do I want calling the shots, telling us what play we're running, what defense to be in, who's getting the ball? It's Spoelstra. I love the way he coaches and what he sees in the game. Number 4 is Gino Auriemma. Again, they talk about Dawn Staley built the South Carolina program from scratch. He held the entire school from scratch at UConn, right? I mean, he created women's basketball, him alongside Pat Summitt. But the women's game is not where it is today without Gino Auriemma. And we're talking about an immigrant, came here as a baby from Italy, who, essentially had to learn English, right? Just speaking Italian first, had to learn English, and has become one of the greatest basketball coaches at any level in the history of basketball. And to see what he's done, where UConn is women's basketball. Women's basketball is UConn. As much as Dawn Staley can do what she does and is continuing to do it at South Carolina, that may never change. Like UConn has built itself there where when he retires, it's still going to be the premier program. The same way like Coach K retiring at Duke and, anyone at Kentucky and Kansas. Like the UConn is that now in the women's game. And you could argue it's that in the men's game, but it's not. It's the women's game, what he has done at UConn is incredible. Number 3 is Rick Pitino. I love Pitino. I love the way he coaches. I think he's calculated.
That halftime speech definitely got you convinced.
Yes.
To put him up here.
A little bit. Yeah. But again, I don't say he's no nonsense, but in a lot of ways he is. He's not going to give in to what something might look like. Oh, I might get hammered in the media for this. He's not thinking that way. He's purely thinking of what can I do to win right now. And that's how he prepares his teams. His teams are always tough-minded. Right? Those Louisville teams, Terry Rozier teams were tough as nails, right? Offensively and defensively. And that's take stats away, that's a hallmark of a great coach. It's how you put your imprint on a team and get people to buy in and be successful as a team, is to have that kind of mindset where we will overcome adversity, whatever it is. Number 2 is Jay Wright. You brought him up before. Arguably one of the most underrated coaches ever been. And it's weird. Part of it is because it took him a lot of failures to get to his successes. Right? And so people always stick with their first impression. Like, it's unfortunately human nature. We stick with what we see first. But like you said, he's the most successful coach in the decade of 2010 to 2019 or 2020, whatever you want to call the cutoff of the decade. He's like the most successful coach of that era. And he was coaching against some of the greatest coaches ever, right? So, and again, he did so much with so little as well. And my number one person, that was one of their hallmarks as well, was doing so much with so little. He didn't have the big-time recruits, but he turned all these guys into NBA players. Yep. And it's the same thing with the first person, which should be no surprise, is Tony Bennett at UVA. And I would argue no one has done more with less in the history of basketball than Tony Bennett. He found a way to win with, again, if you say not blue bloods, like guys that were like 3 2-star recruits that he turned into dudes. He turned guys into NBA players. Like, yeah, he got some big-time guys that come there, but big time is relative to who you are. He wasn't getting like the Cooper Flags of the world to come to UVA. He wasn't. None of those guys. But he turned
his best recruit in terms of like potential to be one and done was Hunter
and Justin Anderson.
Yes, but they weren't one and dones.
No, because these were guys that were raw that he turned into pros. Or he did so much with, again, so little is kind of, excuse the phrasing, belittling of the players. They were obviously all talented, but he did so much with a group of guys that would be projected to be here, and he made them here.
I think you'd be surprised at the high 4-star recruits that he was able to get.
No, I'm not. Again, it's not saying that he had no talent. Correct. It's misinterpreting what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is how about there's a better way to say it? He maximized the potential of his players more than maybe any other coach has.
I would agree with that, yes.
And he always put his team in a position to win. And that bit him at times. But it also gave him success that is unprecedented and unparalleled and probably is never going to happen again at the University of Virginia. Let's be honest. Like, yes, the first thing that may come up to people is the heartbreaks and the failures. But he won a national title. And that's one more than Virginia Tech has won in any sport ever. And he got that done at UVA. And the fashion in which he did it is a testament, again, to his coaching prowess.
It's arguably the most difficult national championship to win.
Yeah. And again, we talk about Jay Wright and the era he coached. Tony Bennett coached in that same era. Yes. I believe he would be the second-ranked coach in that decade in terms of like wins in success, the 2010s.
Yes.
And again,
so to watch Bennett out-coach
Coach K and Roy Williams.
To these stacked ACC teams.
Yes.
Right?
The Leonard Hamiltons, like you brought up. The Mike Braves.
Mike Brave, yep.
Jim Boeheims. Right? They were... Larinaga, yep. There were guys up and down the ACC the whole time he was there. And
Buzz was at Tech, too.
Yep. Brad Brownell at Clemson. Like, he was coaching against some phenomenal coaches and got the better of them every time. Patino even a little bit at Louisville.
Yeah.
Right?
I always loved watching UVA play UNC. And I don't know what it was. It was just a bad matchup for UNC and the styles, and Bennett would just destroy Williams.
Yeah.
And there were the amount of time I'm like, oh yeah, UVA is legit. Like, it's time to start recognizing how good this team actually is. And to build, what was he, 2009?
2009. I believe on this date in 2009, April 1st, he was hired as UVA men's basketball coach.
Wow. It's incredible. Build a statue.
Yeah, you're right.
He should have a statue. He has a national championship.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know if UVA has any statues around their stadium. I don't think they do. Yeah, but you're right. Maybe this is how we start building a statue, is we put him there first.
His name is retired.
Yes,
right?
Yes, he's in the rafters for whatever that is.
But I need a statue.
I agree.
Name the court after him. That's
yeah. You know what? I don't think the court has a name. It's John Paul Jones Arena. I don't think the court has a name. You're right. That court should be Tony Bennett Court.
Yeah.
Boy, give the people something to watch for before we wrap this up.
I mean, It's the Final Four for me every time. Every time it's always going to be this. And I actually think it's the best. It's the best Final Four we've had in years, and I am actually all in because we don't have the 8 seed that's in there, the 6 seed or whatever it is. Like it's all number ones. These have been the best teams by far the entire year. So I'm excited. Sit back and watch some big boy basketball.
I like to go out of the box for something to watch for. I've got a couple things. Live Golf Miami is taking place at Trump National Doral. I think that the Blue Course or the Blue Lagoon, whatever they call it, as the Blue Monster might be what they call that course, because literally just like water everywhere.
Swamp.
Yeah. So this is their last tune-up before the Masters there. I bring it up because we are on a 2-tournament streak for getting our tweets up on Live Golf.
Oh, yeah.
So let's see if we can make it 3 in a row.
All right, well, you're going to have to be the one tweeting that because I'm not watching.
I'll figure it out. The Dodgers play at the Phillies this weekend. That's a really interesting potential NLCS matchup there early in the season. And then the Manchester Derby in the Premier League. That would be Manchester United and Manchester City playing against each other. It's lost some of its luster because Erling Haaland, the Viking Norseman, who is arguably the best goal scorer in the world right now, just got hurt and may be out 7 weeks, which is just devastating to the sport. Jeez. But the Manchester Derby is still, a premier rivalry in the football world. Anything else before we wrap this up?
Nope. I'm good.
So that's going to do it for us here at What Caught My Eye. I am your host, the coach, Nick Vesci, for the boy, Stephen Vesci, reminding you to follow us on all of our socials. That's on, bear with me, X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, Threads, and Twitch. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
At UCME.
Half the things you said, I don't even know.
_sports. Why is it called puzzles? That's the puzzle.
That's the puzzle.
At UCME _sports. Our episodes drop every Wednesday at noon on Spotify, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. Be on the lookout for our, content-specific shows, UCME basketball, golf, soccer, and hockey, all coming to you soon. All this info can be found on our website, ucmesports.com. As always, be decent to each other. Have a good one, and we will see you next time. Take care, Guatemala.